Some men leave no trace. They disappear quietly, no dramatic exit, no final confrontation. Yet somehow, they live in her mind for years, not because they were flawless, not because they said all the right things or promised forever. It's something deeper, something that lingers beneath the surface, like smoke in a closed room. You can't always see it, but you feel it. And once it's there, it never fully leaves. It wasn't about grand gestures. He didn't show up with roses or handwritten letters. He didn't make loud declarations. He never tried to sweep her off her feet. And yet, his presence weighed more than all the sweet words she ever heard. He wasn't loud, he was steady. He wasn't trying to be different, he just was. While other men leaned in, eager to please, eager to be liked, eager to win her over. He stood still, and in that stillness, there was power. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something about him made the world seem quieter when he walked in. He never needed to be the center of attention. He never demanded to be seen. But somehow, you couldn't take your eyes off him. There was something about the way he moved through the world. Effortless, certain, free of desperation. His confidence didn't shout, it whispered. And maybe that's why she still remembers. Because the men who chased her faded. The ones who needed her approval blended together in the blur of her past. But the one who didn't chase, who didn't try to prove anything, he stayed. There was no game, no manipulation, just a man fully rooted in himself. That kind of energy doesn't just pass through your life. It etches itself into memory. And long after he's gone, she finds herself still wondering why he felt so unforgettable. He never tried to control her. Not once, while others tiptoed around her moods, adjusted their words to keep the peace, or bent themselves into someone they thought she wanted. He did none of that. He let her feel what she felt. He let her be who she was. But what he did, control, fully and completely, was the energy of the space around him. When he walked into a room, it shifted. People noticed. Conversations slowed. There was something in his calm, in his unshakable stillness, that made everything else feel lighter and louder by contrast. He didn't raise his voice to be heard. He didn't need to. His presence spoke before he did. Where other men became reactive, raising eyebrows, asking questions, seeking reassurance, he remained steady. That steadiness made her lean in. Not because he was trying to create a mystery, but because he was already whole, already enough. There was nothing desperate about him. Nothing needy. He didn't try to win her over with constant affection or overcorrections. When things felt tense, he didn't push. He didn't pull. He just was a mountain in a storm. Unmoved. And when she tested him, with silence or sarcasm, attitude or withdrawal, expecting the usual unraveling most men deliver, he didn't flinch. Not out of arrogance but out of inner strength. He was comfortable in himself. And that made her feel something she couldn't always name but could never ignore. Safety. Maybe respect, curiosity. Most men adjust to her emotions like wind bends trees. He didn't. He was the weather system, itself something everything else had to adjust to. That kind of emotional gravity doesn't come from pretending. It comes from real presence. And in a world full of noise, his quiet power was unforgettable. He didn't just enter a room. He owned it without ever needing to take anything from it. He never told her how valuable he was. He showed her while other men talked themselves, uplisting their goals, their possessions, their accolades, hoping she'd be impressed. He stayed quiet, not out of insecurity, but because he didn't need applause to feel complete. He wasn't trying to be seen, he simply was seen. Not because he demanded attention, but because his life spoke so clearly that words would have only diluted it. She noticed it in how he carried himself, in how he didn't flinch when people doubted him, in how he moved with quiet confidence instead of loud desperation. He never begged to be understood, never over-explained his intentions. He didn't seek sympathy. He didn't need to be validated. Everything about him said, I know who I am, and I'm not here to convince you. That self-assurance was magnetic. Not the arrogant kind that hides insecurity behind a fake mask, the kind that's built through discipline, through years of becoming someone he could be proud of. His boundaries were clear, not because he said so, but because he lived them. He didn't tolerate disrespect, didn't chase people who walked away, and didn't stay in places that made him feel small. That kind of man makes a woman look inward, makes her wonder if she's meeting him at the level he lives at. Not because he made her feel inferior, but because being around him made her want to rise. There was no show, no rehearsed charm, just quiet power. He didn't need to post his worth, he wore it like skin. And every time he said no to something that didn't serve his purpose, every time he chose growth over comfort, she felt it. He wasn't waiting for recognition. His life was his validation. And that silent strength that made her remember him. Every woman tests. It's not always intentional, and it's rarely cruel. But deep down, she wants to feel safe. She wants to know that the man standing across from her can handle the weight of her emotions, her questions, her silence. She wants to know that when the chaos inside her rises, he won't crumble. And so, she throws the test not to push him away, but to see if he'll stay standing. Most men fail. They react too quickly, too emotionally. They get defensive, try to fix it, try to talk her out of how she feels. They panic, thinking the shift in her tone means the end, but not him. He didn't panic. He didn't rush to explain himself or try to soothe her with empty words. He watched, observed, listened, not with detachment, but with calm. He understood what was happening, not just in her, but in the moment. He could tell when a test wasn't really a fight, but a feeling. And instead of matching her mood, he held his own. That made her stop, because she wasn't used to that. Most men tried to chase her out of her feelings. He let her sit in them without judgment, without fear. And that's the thing. When you can't shake a man, when you throw your sharpest looks and your coldest silences and they're still composed, still kind, still grounded, you start to respect him, not because he controls you, but because he refuses to be controlled by you. His strength isn't loud, it's not aggressive, it's steady, it's quiet, and that kind of stability, it starts to feel like home. He didn't play the game, he understood it, and in every test she threw, looking for cracks, she found the one thing she didn't expect a man who wouldn't break. He didn't need a dramatic ending to make an impact. No last-minute confessions, no desperate texts at 2 a.m., no chasing closure like it would fix what had already passed. He just left with peace, with clarity, and with a silence that said everything louder than words ever could. And that silence, it stayed with her, because she was used to men lingering, showing back up when the loneliness set in, needing to be remembered. But he didn't. He walked away like a man who had already given what he came to give, and took nothing that wasn't his. That kind of exit doesn't fade, it echoes. She expected him to circle back, to check in, to try one last time. That's what most do, not him. He didn't need to remind her of his worth. He didn't need her to understand. He left on his terms, and the dignity in that haunted her. Not in a way that made her angry, but in a way that made her quietly ache. Because when someone walks away without needing you to look back, it makes you want to. It makes you wonder if you ever really saw them clearly at all. He didn't disappear out of bitterness. He didn't hold resentment in his chest. He just knew when something wasn't meant for him, and he didn't fight to stay where he wasn't seen fully. There was no begging, no pleading, just a clean, quiet departure that felt heavier than any scream. And what stays with her isn't just the way he left, it's the way he never needed to be chased. He carried himself like a man who already had peace, not someone searching for it in someone else. And because of that, he became the one she couldn't forget, not because he stayed, but because he knew exactly when to go.